Hey, what's going on, you guys? Today I want to talk about the Mode Envoy 65% keyboard by Mode Designs. It is their new keyboard that they are rolling out with, and it's already up for pre-order. So in my video here, I was originally going to do a tutorial on how to put this keyboard together essentially, and the sound test and my overall thoughts and impressions on it. However, the guys at Mode Designs did a very good job on making an assembly guide video, so I'm just going to have their video linked down below along with their website as well. And it would be absolutely redundant and pointless for me to redo that segment. So in my video here, I'm going to primarily focus on the sound test and the plates comparison discussions, pretty much the options that you can pick when ordering this keyboard. So the guys at Mode also sent me the prototype for the Envoy for me to cover in this video, and this prototype is very close to the final production unit. I mean, it essentially is. It's only like maybe 1% difference, but that doesn't actually affect the keyboard in any way in terms of how it performs or how it sounds. Now, the first thing I want to briefly talk about is the assembly. It's a very easy keyboard to put together. Essentially, it's a tray mount. You get a frame or the case of the keyboard, you get an accent bar that goes on the back side of the keyboard, and you also get a weight that goes on the exterior bottom side of the keyboard. You get some rubber feet, that's also very easy to install. You get a USB-C daughter board that's also very easy to install and screw in. You have your PCB, of course, and you have your plates, and you also get 3 pieces of foam. You get the base foam that goes on the bottom side of the PCB when mounting it in. You also get the dampening foam that goes between the PCB and the plate, and you also get a PE foam that also goes between the PCB and the plate and underneath the switches. The next thing I want to talk about and jump right into is the sound test, but I'm going to talk about my setup real quick before we do that. So Mode sent me 5 different plates and 3 different switches. They sent me copper plate, aluminum, FR4, carbon fiber, and palm. As for the switches, they have the Obscura linear switches, they have the Tomorrow tactile switches, and the Anthracite tactile silent switches. All of these switches I have are stock, and I chose the Obscura linear switches as my primary switch to do in the plates comparison. And I will say that I did not do all the switches for all the plates because there are just way too many combinations and variations. There's 3 sets of foam, there's 5 plates, there are 3 switches, and you can use a combination of any of the 2 foams. You can use no foam, you can use only one of the foams. So you can already imagine that's a lot of different combinations, and I cannot fit them all in this one video. So just take what my video here in terms of the sound test and the plates comparison with a grain of salt, because obviously you're going to choose your own configurations, and that could vary quite a bit from what you hear and see in this video. The Envoy comes with 2 types of mounting blocks to provide different typing feel experiences. The first one is a lattice mount. It's like a rubbery, squishy type of material that's been 3D printed, and you insert it on the inside of your keyboard case. And this will provide a more flexy, bouncy typing experience, whereas the solid blocks will provide a more stiffer and harder typing experience. In my experiment and trying both types of mounting blocks, they don't actually change or alter the sound signature or sound at all when typing, it's just the feel. Now with that said, let's jump right into the sound test. Okay, so here are my overall thoughts on the Envoy. I'm going to give you my feedback based on what I hear and feel in person rather than what's presented in the audio equipment that's being recorded. Because what you see, feel, and hear in person is completely different from what's being presented and recorded, and also it depends on what device you're actually watching this video on. So here's what I thought. The aluminum, FR4, and carbon fiber plates sound and feel the same, whereas the copper plate and the palm actually have the most difference. And I personally like the spacebar sound on the copper and the palm the most. I just used the dampening foam. I chose not to use the base foam because I felt like it would dampen it too much, and I want to hear what the actual keyboard sounds like if the sound were to travel throughout the entire and hit the bottom of the case. And I also chose not to use the PE foam because the PE foam tends to be, in my experience with other keyboards, be a very strong mod, and it tends to make most keyboards sound too similar, so I want to avoid using that. Now don't get me wrong, I do actually like the sound of the PE foam, but that's something that I'm going to mess around with and experiment with over time. And for this particular sound test, I chose just to use the dampening foam between the plate and the PCB. The reasoning why is because, in my experience, when a keyboard has some sort of vibration or echoing or ping, the dampening foam that goes between the plate and the PCB is typically what helps me solve it without actually dampening the sound of the switches too much. So I'm going to give you my build code on what I would actually get in my configuration down below if you're curious to see. Pretty much I would be going for a black base or black frame with copper everything. Copper accents, copper weights, copper plate. And it's not just for the aesthetics of the keyboard, but it's also for the weight and the feel of it. Because I actually have the Mode 65, which is an earlier, older 65% keyboard by Mode Designs, and I love that keyboard. And that keyboard allowed configurations where you could add heavier materials to the frame. For example, a mirror finish that was made out of full brass. And I'm used to that heavyweight. I like that heavyweight. So I want to add a lot more. I would like to add more heavy materials into the Envoy if I can, and that would be my configuration. Another one small comparison I want to make with the Mode Envoy to the Mode 65 is that the Envoy did a better job with the sides in terms of functionality. It's got a tapered side where it's easier to pick up, whereas the Mode 65 has straight flat sides, and that's been kind of difficult to pick up. However, I will say that from an aesthetic standpoint, I do like the look of the Mode 65 a little bit better. Alright, so that's all I have on my mind in terms of the Mode Envoy keyboard. I feel like there are more things that I could talk about, but lately I've just been limited on time and bandwidth, juggling different projects and traveling in and out of state for work, etc. But I do need more time to mess around with it, and if I find anything new, I'll update you guys. But yeah, I would like to mess around with different combinations of foams, the PE foam, and loop switches of my choices and see what my actual final build would be. Let me know what your configuration would be if you were to pick this up. Overall, I think the Mode Envoy is a great entry-level keyboard for that price point. It's actually a very high-level entry-level keyboard, if you will. But yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in, guys, and I appreciate your time. And I will catch you in the next one. Peace.